Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am Game Master Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today's video is the first in a hopefully long series of videos where I do recaps of my newest campaign, which is a ShadowDark campaign set in the world of Greyhawk. So specifically, I had my 4 players begin in the city of Hardby, which is known as the City of the Scorned. And during our session 0, they had introduced themselves, and I will break down what each character is and who their player is, and then I will go into the events of our very first session 0, which did include about 40 minutes or so of just minor tweaks to the characters and getting to know the characters a little bit so that everyone could be on kind of the same page where they were going to begin to understand how, as a party, they're going to meld together. And then we still had about 2 hours left, and so I wanted to introduce them to some adventuring within the city itself, which they certainly did partake in, and they drove the action. They basically looked at the map of the city and said where they wanted to go and what they wanted to do when they got there and so far. So it was very free-flowing and sandboxy in essence, and I had to innovate and create things on the fly, including several NPCs that I'm sure that we will be revisiting over and over again throughout at least the earliest stages of their campaign. So without further ado, let me shift over screens and introduce you to the player characters in this new campaign. So here we have our four player characters, and they are all dwarves. Now, pre-session 0, it came out where I believe just initially there were 3 dwarves and 1 human, and then I asked one of the players if he would consider rolling up a dwarf character instead, because it would just make it that much more interesting. Initially, it would bring them together and bond them together as a group of 4 dwarves. And due to the population, the demographics of Hardby City, dwarves are only 1% of the population, so they would gain a certain amount of notoriety just based on the fact that here you have 4 dwarves working together as an adventure party. And I thought that would be a really good kind of like a story hook to also get them not only together as a as a cohesive group, but also to help generate their reputation going forward. Because if you're not familiar, ShadowDark has a major component to it. At least I consider it a major component to it. Is that they're supposed to be a rival party to the player character party that is kind of either in direct competition with them sometimes, or kind of elusively in the background doing things that might cross paths, or the player characters of the players might learn about certain events that they're doing. So I really do want to incorporate kind of a notoriety for the player characters to kind of generate that competition and so on and so forth. So it's an element of the game system that I think will generate some role-playing opportunities. And so that's the other thing I wanted to really get at least hinted at in session 0. Excuse me. So, going through the list of player characters. We have Torvi, who is a warrior. Now, my players asked that we use the deities, obviously, of Greyhawk, and the alignment system to a certain extent for Greyhawk as well. So, and I told them there's a lot of nuance in between when you're using the system of alignment with, with ShadowDark, which is just lawful, neutral, and chaotic. And as you can see by the characters here, Torvi is a neutral good warrior or a fighter, and so his title is warrior because it tied, I think, more towards the neutral end of it. That's his first designated part. Then Brahm is an initiate. He is a chaotic good. So initiate is the title for a priest that is chaotic in general. I mean, I could ask him if he wants to go more towards the good side and be an acolyte, but he being chaotic already kind of built into one of the interactions that they already had, and I impressed upon him that chaotic doesn't necessarily mean that you are an evil person or an untrustworthy person or something along those lines. It just, chaotic could be just free-spirited, kind of like your Robin Hood-esque type of character. Glandith is a thief, and he is a robber. I went with the neutral rather than the chaotic here because I think just based on the way he played his character, he is more on the neutral side anyway. So he is again a thief, chaotic neutral, and I'm sure that he will be playing along those lines. And then Philip is a true neutral wizard, which in ShadowDark is called a shaman, although he calls himself Philip the Evoker, and that's perfectly fine. I am only putting shaman here so that it ties into the title mechanics of ShadowDark on this front page. But he calls himself Philip the Evoker. All right, so all four characters, or player characters, are dwarves, and we started off with our first session, basically, or the second part of session 0, which was adventuring. So I'm going to switch views here and go to this, and I'm going to try not to reveal as much of too much of this here. So this is kind of like my sheet of information about Hardby, the Scorned city, and I'm going to skip over some of this because I don't want them to see it like right off the bat. But this was the introduction that they received, and so not long after the end of the Greyhawk occupation of Hardby, and before any political faction could take hold of control, the streets and wharfs of Hardby were and remain to be ruled by small, unaffiliated groups of mercenaries, thieves, slavers, anti-slavers, spies, adventurers, all of whom seek fortune above all else. Small group of adventurers are just one group among many. Your small group of adventurers are just one group of many, seeking to profit from the chaos and perhaps make a name for yourselves in the eyes of whoever takes the seat of power in the city of the Scorned. They started off on the outside of this tavern, and I know it's a very tropey thing to have them start off in a tavern, but considering they're all travelers from, in one case, very distant land of Ulick, so he actually sailed across the Woolly Bay to get here, and the other three dwarves are coming from the hills surrounding this region. It kind of makes sense that they would all travel to a travel and seek out a tavern on the way. So there's a reason this is a trope, and the reason is that it works. All right. Now, I always try to add something a little bit unique, and the unique thing about the Cup and Shield is that the whole name of the tavern is built around a drinking contest, which is called the Cup and Shield. And basically, it's a non-lethal combat where the players have to, the participants have to drink 16 large cups of, or mugs of ale that are stacked on a shield, and they will chug one down and then try to club their opponent, who is armed with nothing but a very heavy wooden mug and a shield, and they go back and forth, taking a chug, taking a swing, then next one taking a jug, taking a swing, and they're, as they get drunker, it gets harder to hit. The winner is whomever makes the most hits if no one is knocked out, or the last person standing. And so this is where the tavern got its name. The tavern is run by Rog Fiddlesnort, who was a half-orc, and a half-orc fighter. And Hardby is a very interesting place, too, because it does have a very large population in comparison to the other demi-human races. Somewhere around the 30% mark in this city as half-orcs. And there's a lot of lore reasons for that as well, which we'll see if the party delves into it. Once again, something a little bit unique about this this particular half-orc is that, number one, he has the very D&D traditional pig-nosed. So he is a pig-nosed orc, my favorite depiction of orcs, and even though he's half orcish, there's no denying that he's a half orc. He cannot remotely pass for a human. He is also really stands out due to the fact that his stature, he's very short for a half orc. He's only 5 foot tall, and he's very charismatic, which is another thing that typically half orcs are not really well known for. And so I tried to break away a little bit from the very common and traditional in creating this character, and to give him a little bit more character, because this is a character that the players will have frequent contact with. And so I wanted to breathe some life into this NPC right from the get-go. Now we get to just like kind of the recap here. And so this is the written recap of what occurred. And I just shared this with my players as well on our Discord channel. And so these are the NPCs that they encountered. And other than Rog Fiddlesnort, all of these NPCs were NPCs that I had to create on the fly. So there was Theo Delden, an acolyte priest of Pelor, lawful good, human priest. Slaven Bartow, a sergeant of the watch, lawful neutral, human fighter. Lady Torella of Rotana's Menagerie, a human scholar. Mortimer Selden, the harbor master, human fighter of the Free Mariners, retired. And Rorsch, the knave, a combatant in the Cup and Shield Challenge. He's also a human fighter. Knowledge that the players gained during the session. They learned a general history of Hardby, including the main factions. They learned about a chaotic Sul cult without being named from Theo Delden. The priest did not want to mention the cult by name. He just warned the players, the player characters, that in particular the player character priest Brahm, to at all costs avoid this particular cult. They learned from two sources, Lady Tyrella, and then this was confirmed by Mortimer Selden. They learned about the eroding island of El Morath. And once they learned about this island, they went to, sorry, they went to Mortimer Selden, the harbor master, to find out more. They learned via the rumors that the island of El Morath is avoided by most. A former villa of a wizard is on this island and is kind of crumbling into the bay or the sea. The island is rumored to have a tree that bears fruit that are very valuable on the black market. Now, they haven't delved into why it's valued, why they are valued on the black market itself instead of the ordinary market, but that is something that that the thief in the party is going to check with his contacts in the next session to see what he can find out about them. They're also waiting until next session to get a contract, and I'll go into that when I go into the events, to get a contract to actually go out there. And so we're going to lead right into the events now. The events of Session 1, or Session 0, is they arrived and met in front of the Cup and Shield. They ventured into the city for the first time, visiting the High Church, the Barracks of the Watch, Rotana's Menagerie, the Harbor Master, and then returned to the Cup and Shield. They negotiated a contract to sail to the Isle of El Morath with the Harbor Master. Basically, he told them that, return with and give him half of the fruit that they received, and then he will make arrangements for them to acquire a small fishing boat in a nearby town that is it's closer to where the island is located. It's a couple days journey to the south of Hardby. They, after making that arrangement, and the harbor master told them that he will send the information and the contract to them in the morning. They returned to the Cup and Shield, at which point Torvi, the fighter in the group, participated in the non-lethal combat event against Rorsch, the knave, who was also a fighter, by the way. Torvi won in the 14th round, so he basically drank 14 huge mugs of ale, and basically managed to just outslug Rorsch, the knave. It came out total where Torvi took 7 hits to his opponent. I believe 10 hits. So essentially, Torvi took 7 hit points of damage and non-lethal damage, and his opponent took 10 hit points of damage. A dwarf versus a human in this kind of a combat is going to certainly favor the dwarf, and the aspect that the dwarf has a constitution bonus, and so they're less affected by the drinking. They had to make these constitution checks with every drink, and every time they failed that check, they would get a -1/2 hit, and it ultimately ended up being they were both at -6 by the time they got to the 14th round, when Torvi scored the knockout. And at one point, actually, Rorsch, which the players didn't realize it, was that he made a critical success on his constitution check when drinking, and so he went from a -7 to a -6. He actually recovered some of his soberness, let's say, and so and that was at a really key turning point, where it actually allowed him to make another hit, that would have missed if he still had that -7. He had just barely hit Torvi, but then Torvi just outpaced him, going beyond that point. They were kind of neck and neck in the beginning, and then it was just a slow widening of the gap between the two. Overall, the session 1 XP was, I awarded them all 2 experience points, and they had earned from betting and from the contest itself. They had earned a total of 160 copper pieces and 16 silver pieces. The 16 silver pieces was the side bet that took place, and the 160 was from winning the contest. So overall, they each earned 8 silver pieces, a piece, obviously, and they all earned 2 XP. And the way that ShadowDark works, and I can shift views here now. The way that ShadowDark works is that the players need 10 experience points to get to level 2. Then they'll need 20 to get to level 3, and so on. So not a lot of experience points gets dealt out during an adventure. But what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to just see basically how many sessions each adventure actually takes. Most are designed to be a single session adventure, and we'll see how that plays out. And if they do run a single session, then depending on how things go, I will probably go with like a maximum of like 3 experience points per adventure per session, and that way it would take them probably about 2, possibly 3 dungeon crawls, maybe more, but I doubt it, to level up the first time, and then it'll also take exponentially more as you go from one level to the next, and so we'll see how the pacing of gaining levels is in ShadowDark. This is an experiment of mine too, because I've never run a ShadowDark campaign. I've only run it for one-shots at conventions, and so this is my first time running it as a campaign, and we'll see how long it takes them to run the full, getting up to level 10. I'm assuming it will take many months. I'm really looking forward to it. The other thing that I'm experimenting with here is the fact that I did, as part of Session 0, and actually even pre-Session 0, I limited the players to playing just the 4 core classes. I want to see how, in a old school with modern day mechanics, which is how ShadowDark is described, how it works with just the 4 core classes, and to see how the system, kind of like testing both the system and the old school mechanics of this being something that, not all the subclasses and multi-classing and all of that other, I'll call it clutter, and let's just see what it's like to run a very rules-light, simplistic way of approaching the party makeup. So I really enjoyed it. My players, some of my players came in and said, hey, I had a really great time, and I was really excited about that. As I might have mentioned earlier on in this video, I have 3 brand new players. I have never played with them as a player in any, convention or any space like that, and none of them have ever played with me. I only have 1 returning player, Mirador, who has been with me through my Castles and Crusades campaign. That's Tuesday night, so actually tonight we'll be playing. And he was with my AD&D First Edition campaign for 2 years and 2 months. And he was with my D&D campaign, my 8-month-long D&D campaign previous to that, or at least a portion of that previous to that. And so he's the most familiar with my playing style, the way I run a game, and I'm also hoping to do some things different even for him. All right, so that he can, like, he sees that a different game system will actually have some different approaches and everything. Because, again, ShadowDark does not run like AD&D First Edition or Castles and Crusades. It very much runs like its own thing, and so I am going to have to adjust my own game mastery to match up with the game system as well. So I'm hoping that that maintains the same playing experience for my players. Plus, it's a learning experience for myself as a game master. So, it goes back to something that I say very, very often, is that you can never truly master game mastery, as per what Gary Gygax had written in his game mastery novel, or book, whatever you want to call it, that, he said that you can never truly master the art of game mastery if you're only playing with one game system, you're only playing with one group of people, you're only playing in one mode of running the game system. So he was like, you have to play in the home, at the local store, at a convention, and the convention was the key for him as well. Now, he wasn't so much aware at the time of the eventual playing online and that aspect of it, but I'm sure that he would have probably included that in his theory of gaining mastery, because that of course opens up the floodgates, basically, of your opportunities to run games and meet people from all over the world that playing locally, or certainly in your home, is not going to afford the same thing. So it is a slight step beyond even what convention play can offer you. So really great start. Great session 0/1. Although I will call it session 0 just for the sake of this video. And then we are going to be delving hopefully right into the the villa on the island of El Morath on sometime on Friday. So you all have a great day, and thanks for stopping in. I hope you enjoyed this video. My players, please feel free to jump in there and remind me of anything I missed in my recap. And I think I've pretty much covered everything in the recap, but please feel free to jump in on there and make your comments as well. And for the rest of you, thanks for joining in. Hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to like and subscribe, and to comment and to share and do all of that stuff. If you are currently running a ShadowDark campaign, please feel free to jump in there and leave some comments as well. If you're running a campaign, any game system set in Greyhawk, jump in there and talk about that as well. And as always, just keep on rolling those dice and meeting new people and just exposing yourself to as many experiences as you possibly can in our hobby. So play new game systems, play with new groups of people, play in different modes of playing. And that goes to the same thing for game masters. Run, play, do everything that you can to broaden your experience in this hobby. So you'll have a great one. Take care.